Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today, I've got an amazing story to share with you all. Grab a seat, relax, and let's dive in. My alarm went off at 5:30 a.m., like it always does on weekdays. For the past 10 years, that's been my routine. Wake up, shower, dress, check emails, and get ready for a full day at MBK Construction, the company my late father built from scratch. Since he passed away, I've worked hard to keep his legacy alive. I promised myself I wouldn't let the company fall. And I meant it. At 7 a.m., I was in the kitchen making coffee while checking my schedule on my phone. That's when Chuddy, my 15-year-old son, walked in. He looked sleepy, wearing his school hoodie. "Morning, Mom," he mumbled. "Morning, honey," I said, sliding some toast his way. "Don't forget your history test today." He nodded, but his eyes stayed glued to his phone. That's how most of our mornings go, quick chats, a rushed breakfast, and then I head off to run a construction company. My job cost me my marriage. My ex-husband, Tom, couldn't handle the long hours. He once told me, "You're married to that company, not me." Then he left. I guess he wanted someone who would put him first. And maybe I couldn't. But I had a company to protect, and a son to raise. Chuddy has always been my rock. Kind, smart, focused. He handled the divorce better than I expected. At 1'5", he already towers over me and reminds me so much of his dad, his smile, his walk, but with my stubbornness. Lately though, something felt different. He was distracted, quiet. At dinner last week, he just stared off into space. "Earth to Chuddy," I said, waving my hand. "Where'd you go?" "Sorry. Just thinking about stuff," he replied. "What kind of stuff?" "School. A girl." "It's nothing, Mom. I'm just tired." I let it go. Teenagers need space, right? But then more things started piling up. He kept texting someone, and he'd quickly hide his phone whenever I walked by. He asked to walk to school instead of me driving him. He even kept his bedroom door closed all the time. Then came the phone call from his English teacher. "Kate, this is Rebecca, Chuddy's teacher," she said. "Is everything all right?" I asked. "I'm concerned. Chuddy's grades have dropped a lot. He's missed quizzes, and he didn't show up to class yesterday." My heart dropped. But he left for school like normal. That's why I called. Something's off. That night, I tried to talk to Chuddy. I asked how school was. He said, "Fine." I asked about English. He shrugged. I asked if anything was bothering him. He looked like he might say something, but then he shut down again. That's when I knew I had to find out what was really going on. The next day, while he was in the living room playing video games, I quietly went into his room. I never invaded his privacy before, but this time felt different. His room was neat. Too neat. His backpack sat on the chair. I opened it. Books, calculator, notebooks. Then I opened a side pocket and froze. Diapers. Newborn baby diapers. My hands shook as I stared at the package. My son. Diapers. Why? I tossed and turned all night. Sleep refused to come. Each time I closed my eyes, I kept seeing those newborn diapers in Chuddy's bag. What did they mean? I tried to think of every reasonable explanation. Maybe he was doing a school project on babies. Maybe he was helping a friend or neighbor. But why hide it? Why stuff the diapers deep inside a backpack pocket like it was a secret? My stomach was in knots. I couldn't take it anymore. By 3 a.m., I had made up my mind. I wasn't going to the office the next day. MBK Construction would survive without me for one day. My son needed me more right now. At exactly 6:45 a.m., I was up and dressed, pretending to sip coffee like it was any other day. Chuddy came down the stairs, wearing his usual school hoodie and grabbing toast from the counter like he always did. "Morning," he mumbled. "Morning," I replied, trying not to act suspicious. He packed his bag, slung it over his shoulder, and headed for the door. "Don't forget your test," I called out, my heart racing. He nodded, barely turning around. The moment he stepped out, I grabbed my keys and followed, making sure to stay far enough behind that he wouldn't see me. At first, everything looked normal. He took the usual route toward the school. But halfway there, he suddenly turned left, away from school. My chest tightened. I quickly parked my car near a corner and followed on foot, using trees and parked cars to hide. He walked briskly, looking over his shoulder once like he sensed something. I ducked. Then he reached a small park. I stayed hidden behind a fence. He sat on a bench and pulled out his phone, texting. A few minutes later, a girl walked toward him, no more than 16, wearing a hoodie and carrying a small baby in a wrap. My mouth fell open. Chuddy stood up and gently took the baby from her arms. He smiled, soft, warm, and full of love, and cradled the baby like he'd done it 1,000 times. The baby smiled back. Then it hit me. Chuddy wasn't just helping someone with a baby. He had a connection to that child. Was it his? I covered my mouth as tears welled up. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. My responsible, quiet son, had he become a father? The girl sat beside him and they talked, laughing softly. Chuddy rocked the baby in his arms, looking proud, and completely at peace. I had come looking for answers, but now I had more questions. How long had this been going on? Why didn't he tell me? And most of all, how did I, his mother, not know? I stood there frozen. My feet wanted to move, but my body wouldn't listen. I couldn't take my eyes off Chuddy, my baby, holding another baby like he was born to do it. I wanted to storm over and scream, "What is going on here?" But I didn't. Instead, I stepped back slowly, heart pounding, and quietly returned to my car. I sat in the driver's seat, hands shaking, and stared at the steering wheel. What had I just witnessed? Was that Chuddy's child? Or was he helping a friend? Maybe it wasn't what it looked like. But deep down, I already knew the answer. A mother knows. He looked too comfortable, too confident, too in love with that child for it to be just a friend's baby. On my way home, memories started flooding my mind. I remembered when Chuddy was just a baby himself. How he used to fall asleep on my chest. His first steps. His first words. I blinked back tears. Now he was hiding a baby from me. Hiding an entire part of his life. And the painful question kept coming up, why didn't he feel like he could tell me? Then, like lightning, it hit me. Was it because I'd always been too busy? I thought I was doing everything right, providing, working hard, making sure he lacked nothing. But maybe what he really needed wasn't money or comfort, maybe it was me. Maybe while I was busy chasing contracts and building my father's company, I was missing the one thing that mattered most, being there for my son. I pulled into the driveway, parked the car, and just sat in silence. That evening, Chuddy came back home like nothing had happened. "Hey, Mom," he called as he entered. "Hey," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. He went straight to his room. I followed after a few minutes, my heart pounding. I knocked. "Can we talk?" He opened the door, surprised. "Sure." I stepped in. "I want to ask you something. And I need you to be honest with me." He looked nervous. "Okay. I saw you today," I said gently. "At the park." His face went pale. "You were holding a baby," I continued. "Whose baby is that, Chuddy?" He swallowed hard, eyes wide. I was going to tell you. I just didn't know how. So it's true." He nodded slowly. "Her name is Gozi. She's mine. And the girl, her name is Kenny. We've been together for a year." I sat down on his bed, speechless. "My baby has a baby," I whispered. "I'm sorry, Mom. I didn't want to disappoint you." That broke me. I reached out and pulled him into a hug. "You're not a disappointment, Chuddy. I just wish you had told me sooner." And just like that, the wall between us began to break. The next morning, I didn't even touch my laptop. Emails, deadlines, clients. For the first time in forever, they could all wait. My son needed me more than any boardroom ever could. Chuddy sat at the kitchen table, nervously sipping orange juice. I placed a plate of eggs and toast in front of him. "Thanks," he mumbled. I sat across from him. "We need to talk, for real this time." He nodded, staring at his plate like it held all the answers in the world. "Tell me everything," I said gently. He took a deep breath. "Her name is Kenny. She's 16. We met in art class last year. It started with us working on a school project together. Then we just clicked. She's funny, smart, and she gets me, Mom." I listened quietly. "When she found out she was pregnant, we were both scared. She cried for days. I didn't know what to do either. But I promised her I'd be there. And the baby? I asked. Gozi. She's 4 months old. Kenny's parents wanted her to give the baby up for adoption, but she refused. They were so mad, they kicked her out. She's living with her aunt now. Her aunt is nice, but she works double shifts, so Kenny's mostly alone. And you help take care of the baby? He nodded. Almost every day after school. I buy diapers with my pocket money, sometimes skip lunch. I know it's not enough, but I'm trying. I blinked back tears. You've been doing all this alone. He looked up at me, eyes shining. I didn't know how to tell you, Mom. You're always so busy. And after the divorce, I didn't want to cause more problems. Chuddy, I said, reaching for his hand. You are not a problem. You're my son, my heart. He broke down then. Not the quiet type of crying, but full-blown sobbing. I moved to his side and hugged him tight. I thought you'd be ashamed of me, he said through tears. Never, I whispered. I'm proud of the man you're becoming. You made a mistake, yes. But you stood up and took responsibility. That takes courage. He pulled back, wiping his eyes. I want to do more for Kenny and Gozi. But I can't even work yet. I feel useless. You're not useless. And you're not alone anymore. That afternoon, I asked Chuddy to invite Kenny over. He hesitated at first but eventually agreed. When she walked in holding baby Gozi, my heart melted. She was a beautiful girl, small and shy, with tired eyes that said she'd grown up too fast. Gozi was even more beautiful up close, soft brown skin, curious eyes, and a tiny smile that made my chest ache. Good afternoon, Ma, Kenny greeted quietly. Welcome, my daughter. My mother replied while beaming with smile. We sat together and talked, really talked. She told me everything. Her fear, the pain, the night she was kicked out. The struggle to raise a baby while being just a child herself. And as I listened, I realized something. I had judged too quickly. I had assumed the worst. But here were two young people doing their best in a messy, complicated world. And all they needed was love, support, and a little guidance. I want to help, I told them. But we'll set some rules, and we'll do this right. For the first time in a long while, I felt like a mother again, not just to Chuddy, but to Kenny and Gozi too. Kenny and Gozi started visiting more often after that first emotional evening. At first, it was just for short visits, an hour here, 2 hours there. But soon, it became part of our routine. I cleared out the guest room and set up a small crib we ordered online. Chuddy helped build it, his hands shaky but determined. He took the instruction manual so seriously, like he was assembling the future itself. Kenny would sit quietly beside him, Gozi asleep on her chest, watching him with eyes full of gratitude. She didn't say much at first, but I could see she was starting to feel safe. One evening, as I walked past Chuddy's room, I heard soft singing. I peeked through the half-open door and saw him rocking Gozi gently in his arms while humming a lullaby. I covered my. One Saturday morning, I sat by the window, sipping coffee and watching Chuddy hold Gozi while Kenny packed her diaper bag. The sunlight poured through the curtains, wrapping the three of them in a soft, golden glow. I should have felt overwhelmed. I should have felt regret. But instead, I felt peace, maybe for the first time in years. Then something strange happened. Chuddy looked up and asked, Mom, were you scared when you had me? I froze. The question knocked the breath out of me. Terrified, I said honestly. I was just 21, and I didn't know a thing about raising a child. But the moment I held you, I knew I'd do anything for you. He smiled. I feel that way about Gozi. That moment, his question, unlocked something deep inside me. All these years, I had convinced myself that I was just doing what was necessary. Working long hours, climbing the ladder, sacrificing family time, for the legacy, for the company, for security. But truthfully, I had been hiding behind my work. Hiding from the pain of raising Chuddy mostly alone. Hiding from the fear of failing as a mother. And maybe, just maybe, hiding from the guilt that came with choosing ambition over bedtime stories. Seeing Chuddy now, his calmness with Gozi, the way he and Kenny were learning together, I couldn't help but feel a pang of jealousy. At 1.5, he was already showing a kind of balance I had struggled to find my entire life. Later that evening, while Chuddy and Kenny were feeding Gozy, I sat with my journal, something I hadn't touched in years. I wrote, "Today, I watched my son become a father. Not just because a baby cried or because he changed a diaper, but because he showed up. He was present. He stayed calm. He offered love instead of fear. I see myself in him. But I also see someone braver than I ever was." I looked around at the new kind of home we were becoming. One that had its cracks, yes, but also had laughter and tiny baby socks on the floor. A home that wasn't perfect, but was real. The next morning, I called Tom, Chuddy's father. "I just wanted you to know," I said, "you're a grandfather now." He was silent for a moment. Then he said, "Wow. I didn't expect that." Neither did I. "But Chuddy's doing okay. Better than okay, actually. Do you need help with anything?" he asked. And for the first time in years, I didn't hear resentment in his voice. "We're figuring it out. But thank you," I said. Maybe healing had begun in more places than one. I watched Chuddy rock Gozy that night, and I realized that while this journey wasn't what any of us expected, it was turning out to be something strangely beautiful. It wasn't just about finding diapers in a backpack anymore. It was about discovering the hidden truths behind them. And in doing so, I found something in myself I didn't even know I'd lost: the courage to slow down, to forgive, and to truly love without holding back. The end. Thanks for watching this captivating story on AFR Tale by MMA. Your support means a lot to me. Please click the subscription button and don't forget to let us know where you are watching from so we can say a special shout out to you. Stay tuned for more interesting stories. Bye bye.